There is a woman who drives one of the earliest morning trains out of Osaka Station. Before she ever checks a schedule, before she says a single word to anyone, before the platform even fills up, she eats exactly 3 things, standing at her own kitchen counter in the same order every single day. A bowl of miso soup, still steaming, a small portion of grilled fish, a spoonful of something fermented and slightly pungent that most Westerners have never willingly put in their mouth before 7 o'clock a.m. She has done this for 31 years of shift work, the kind of irregular schedule nutritionists usually warn wrecks your metabolism completely. She is 54. Her waist measurement has not changed in a decade. She has never done a cleanse. She does not own a set of resistance bands. She has never once counted a macro in her life. 2 train stops away, in a newer apartment with better light and a nicer view, someone else is doing everything the fitness world has told them to do, in the exact order they were told to do it, following the plan almost to the letter. A protein shake, chalky and sweetened, mixed before their eyes are even fully open. A 5 o'clock a.m. gym session, 4 days a week without fail, rain or shine, tracked in an app that congratulates them for showing up. A calorie tracker open on the counter before the coffee even finishes brewing. Every single box checked, every single day, with real discipline behind it. And the weight sitting around their middle has not moved in over a year, no matter how precisely they follow the plan they were handed. She isn't restricting anything. She isn't counting, weighing, or measuring a single thing. She isn't white-knuckling her way through a plan she secretly resents. She just eats what she eats, in the order she's always eaten it, and gets on the train. What if the difference was never really about effort at all? What if it has almost nothing to do with the gym, or the shake, or the tracker, and almost everything to do with a single hormone that reacts to how your morning is structured, not to how hard you push through it? By the end of this video, you'll know exactly what that hormone is, why the standard Western morning routine keeps loading it higher without you ever noticing, and 5 specific things done every single morning across Japan that quietly keep it from working against you instead of for you. Let's take apart the equation first, because almost everyone believes it without ever once questioning it. Belly fat is treated as a straightforward math problem. Eat less, move more, and the fat disappears. It's the foundation of nearly every diet plan, every fitness app, every gym membership pitch on the planet. And for an enormous number of people, that math simply refuses to hold up. Not because they aren't trying hard enough, because the equation leaves out a variable entirely: cortisol. Before we go further, it's worth being precise about what this hormone actually is, because most people have only ever heard it mentioned as something to fear. Cortisol isn't the villain here. It's the hormone that gets you out of bed, sharpens your focus, and prepares your body to meet the demands of the day. Every human body needs it to rise in the morning. The problem isn't that it rises. The problem is what happens when it's pushed too high, too fast, by too many small things stacked on top of each other in a single hour, and then kept elevated for far longer than it was ever designed to stay up. A body that reads its own ordinary morning as a low-grade emergency, over and over, day after day, shifts into what researchers describe as a protective, fat-storing state. And it doesn't store that fat evenly across the body. It wraps it specifically around the abdomen, around the organs, like a kind of biological insulation against a threat that was never actually there in the first place. Japan has some of the lowest rates of abdominal obesity in the industrialized world, not because of a diet plan, not because of a supplement stack, and not because of some genetic advantage either, because of what does or doesn't happen in roughly the first hour after the eyes open. 5 small things, done in a specific order, none of them dramatic on their own, none of them the kind of thing that would ever make it into a fitness app's push notification. Let's go through all 5 because the order matters just as much as the habits themselves do. Habit 1. What actually goes into the body first, before anything else? In most Western mornings, breakfast is either skipped entirely or it's something fast and sweet. Cereal, a pastry, a flavored coffee with syrup stirred in, eaten standing up, halfway out the door. That combination lands on a body whose cortisol is already climbing, and it hits it with a sharp sugar spike, followed shortly by an equally sharp crash. The crash itself gets read by the body as a small emergency, and cortisol climbs a second time to compensate for it. A full stress cycle completed before 9 o'clock a.m., and most people have no idea it ever happened. They just feel a little tired, a little edgy, and reach for more coffee. The traditional Japanese breakfast, a sagohan, is built almost the opposite way. Fermented soybeans, a small piece of salted grilled fish, a bowl of soup made from fermented paste, a portion of plain rice. Protein and fermented food arrive first. Sugar is nowhere near the start of the day. Fermented foods in particular carry live bacterial cultures, and researchers studying the connection between gut health and hormone regulation have increasingly linked a healthy gut microbiome to steadier blood sugar and a noticeably calmer cortisol curve for hours after eating. Let this land for a second. It's not about eating less. It's about what arrives first. You don't need a jar of natto sitting in your fridge tomorrow morning. You need protein and something fermented, plain yogurt, kimchi, even a hard-boiled egg, arriving before anything sweet ever touches your mouth. The order is the entire mechanism, not what you eventually eat that day. What goes in first, while your body is still deciding how the whole day is going to feel. Habit 2. What the body does before it does anything hard. Turn on a television in almost any public space in Japan at exactly 6:30 in the morning. A school courtyard, a factory floor, an office lobby, and you will find people of every age doing the exact same 3-minute stretching sequence in unison, arms rising and falling together like it's choreographed, because in a sense it is. It's called Ragio Teso, radio calisthenics, and it has been broadcast nationally every single morning since the 1920s. It is not intense. There is no elevated heart rate that lasts, no sweat to speak of. It's rotation, reach, gentle bounce, breath, repeated in a fixed, unhurried sequence that never changes. And that matters more than it sounds like it should. A body waking directly into a hard workout, the treadmill sprint, the heavy lift attempted before the sun is even fully up, is a body layering intense physical stress directly on top of its own natural cortisol surge, asking it to climb even higher right when it's already peaking. You feel accomplished in the moment. Endorphins are real and they feel earned, but your hormones are quietly paying the bill for hours afterward, and the fat around your middle is often exactly where that bill gets collected. 3 minutes of low intensity, full body movement gives the nervous system precisely what it needs to come fully online without triggering that second, avoidable spike. You don't need the national broadcast, and you don't need a gym floor. You need 3 unhurried minutes of stretching and rotation before your first demanding task of the day, not instead of harder exercise later, but strictly before anything demanding happens at all. So far, that's what goes in first and how the body moves before anything hard. But there's a third layer underneath both of those, one that's running constantly whether you're paying attention to it or not. Habit 3. What the breath is doing while nobody's paying attention to it. Most people breathe from the chest first thing in the morning, short, shallow, high in the rib cage, which happens to be the exact breathing pattern the body defaults to under mild stress, the same pattern you'd find in someone bracing for bad news. In Japan, Fukushiki Kakyu, diaphragmatic or belly breathing, is taught from early childhood in schools, in martial arts, in traditional tea ceremony practice, until it simply becomes how breathing works. The way tying a shoe becomes automatic. The technique itself is almost embarrassingly simple. Inhale slowly through the nose. Let the belly rise rather than the chest. Hold for a moment at the top. Exhale slowly and fully through the mouth. Done for even 2 or 3 minutes. This shifts the nervous system out of its default alert setting and into a parasympathetic one, the setting associated with digestion, repair, and a lower resting cortisol baseline. Shallow chest breathing quietly tells the brain a threat might be somewhere nearby, even when nothing at all is wrong. Slow belly breathing tells the brain the exact opposite. Before your feet even touch the floor, 5 slow belly breaths can change which signal your nervous system is operating on for the rest of the morning. And that signal doesn't just fade once breakfast is over. It sets a baseline that quietly follows you for hours, into meetings, into traffic, into everything that comes after it. Habit 4. Something that actually happened the night before, but quietly decides how your morning hormones behave. Hara Hache, the practice of eating until you're roughly 80% full, and stopping meals a set number of hours before sleep, is common practice across Japanese households, especially in the evening. Late, heavy eating keeps digestion and blood sugar regulation active deep into the night, and that ongoing activity interferes with the deepest, most restorative stages of sleep, the stages where the body actually does its repair work. Sleep quality, in turn, is directly tied to the following morning's cortisol curve. A body that slept poorly wakes up with a cortisol surge that arrives sharper and is harder to bring back down, regardless of what you do after you open your eyes, no matter how good your breakfast is. Tonight's dinner is tomorrow morning's hormone setting, decided hours before you're even aware it's being made. The shift here isn't complicated. Finish eating a few hours before bed. Stop at satisfied, not stuffed. You are not going to fix tomorrow morning by simply trying harder tomorrow morning. You fix it tonight, at the dinner table, hours before you've even gone to sleep, in a decision most people never connect to the number on the scale at all. 3 habits down covering food, movement, and breath, and 1 covering what happens the night before. There's 1 more, and it might be the one doing the most quiet work of all. And habit 5, the one that quietly ties the other 4 together, and the one almost nobody follows on purpose because it doesn't even look like a habit at all. Doing one thing at a time. The Western morning is often a blur of simultaneous inputs stacked on top of each other without a second thought. Coffee brewing while scrolling a phone, while half listening to the news, while mentally drafting the day's first email before you've even brushed your teeth. Each one of those is a small, independent demand on attention, and stacked together, they function as a form of low-grade multitasking stress before the day has technically even started, a kind of noise the body responds to as if it were pressure. In traditional Japanese morning practice, tasks are carried out with deliberate separation, one at a time. The tea is made, and only then is it drunk. The room is tidied, and only then does the next thing begin. Nothing happens simultaneously with something else, and there's a specific word for the space deliberately left between those actions. The intentional pause. That gap isn't wasted time being thrown away. It's the nervous system being given explicit permission to finish one small task before starting the next, instead of holding 4 unfinished ones in the air at once, all morning, without ever noticing the quiet weight of it. A morning built around simply generates fewer of those tiny background stress signals accumulating before 8 o'clock a.m. And fewer signals means a lower baseline for the exact hormone responsible for fat storage around your middle for the rest of the day. 5 habits, all of them free. None of them require a gym membership, a supplement, or a single dollar spent. Protein and fermented food before sugar ever touches your mouth. 3 minutes of gentle, full-body movement before anything demanding. A handful of slow breaths from the belly before the day properly begins. An earlier, lighter dinner the night before, not a fix attempted the morning of. And 1 task at a time, instead of 4 competing for your attention all at once. Individually, each one is almost too small to take seriously on its own. You could do any single one and barely notice a difference tomorrow. Together, in this order, repeated daily, they add up to a morning that never asks cortisol to spike harder than it strictly has to, and that, it turns out, may matter more for the weight sitting stubbornly around your middle than anything happening at the gym at all. So here's what we'd suggest, starting tonight rather than next week. Set out breakfast that has protein or something fermented in it before you go to sleep, so tomorrow's first bite isn't sugar by default. That's the only real preparation required. Tomorrow, eat that first, before anything sweet gets near it. Stretch for 3 unhurried minutes before you do anything urgent. Breathe slowly from your belly 5 times before you even touch your phone. Eat dinner tomorrow night a little earlier and a little lighter than usual. And throughout the morning, just notice, honestly notice, how much of it is actually 2 or 3 things happening at once, and see what it feels like to slow all the way down and do only one. None of this requires you to overhaul your life by Monday. It requires you to change the order of about 60 minutes, 5 days, and see what's different by the end of the week. The woman on the early train in Osaka has never once called any of this a routine. To her, it's simply how a morning begins, and it always has been. If this changed the way you think about your own mornings, tell me in the comments which one of these 5 you're starting with first. And if you know someone who's done everything the gym and the calorie app ever told them to do, and still can't explain the weight that won't move, send them this. They may be one calmer, quieter morning away from finally finding out why.